Huge reports out of the WWE as the next official NXT call-up has been supposedly made official, and it seems like it's going to be Carmelo Hayes making the official step this summer after WrestleMania. What does that mean for Carmelo and his feud with Trick Williams down in NXT? We gotta discuss that. Plus, Jade Cargill, one of the biggest names in female wrestling today. She spoke out at a recent basketball game saying we need to tune in to SmackDown this Friday. Is that a potential teaser for a new WrestleMania match? We have a lot of stuff to get into on this episode of Wrestle Digest, but before we get into it, if this is your first time watching, guys, hit subscribe. We have daily wrestling news and content here at Wrestle Digest, so if you want a new home, or maybe a second or third home for all the wrestling news you could possibly want, this is the spot to be. Casey, we got to talk about something else first, though, and that is Raw. Monday Night Raw. A lot of people, well, it's been the subject of a lot of talk, and I'm sure a lot of you watching this have already heard about what's happened, or you've watched it yourself, but don't skip, because some new info has come out about Monday Night Raw. They set a record. Casey, this is from Cage Match. Of course, Cage Match with all the ratings information and a lot more information about all things wrestling. They have a 9.45 rating, and that makes it the single highest rated non-memorial episode of weekly wrestling in Cage Match history. Not just WWE, but weekly wrestling. Just goes to show how strong this push is towards WrestleMania. Some of these feuds, some of these promos are insane. Of course, we opened with Cody and Rock. Now, we don't really need to get into a whole another recap of Raw, but Casey, these elements that make Raw what it is now are just amazing. To hear that this episode of Raw is the highest rated non-memorial Raw, or not even just Raw, weekly wrestling show in history, well, Cage Match history, that's still just absolutely absurd.
Obviously, and if you missed like last night's episode of Monday Night Raw, you really missed the best episode of Monday Night Raw that I've watched in a really long time. It really brought it back to the Attitude Era for me, just where they opened with Cody and The Rock. You know, that feud is hot right now. He comes up, whispers in his ear, they go to commercial, then at the end of the night, The Rock jumps him backstage, leaves him in a bloody state, and is got the Mama Rhodes belt and everything. It was so great. And as well, there was a great match in there. JD McDonough and Ricochet with an unbelievable ending. The sharpshooter off the top rope to a standing JD McDonough. It was just an amazing event all around. And then in the middle, you have CM Punk delivering one of the greatest promos I've seen in a long time.
That's unbelievable, right? The Canadian Destroyer out of the wrist lock from Ricochet. There's so many amazing elements. Punk versus McIntyre, who held his own on the mic against CM Punk in Chicago. Even had some of the crowd, wouldn't say turning against Punk, but they definitely were given some oohs. Had some good lines from everyone, including Seth at the end. There was so many good elements, but what I love about this, Casey, maybe you can touch on this for just a second before we move into the next topic, is it seems like WWE really likes drip feeding us, right? Teasing us early in the episode. Now, that's something they've done for a long time. It's something television has done for a long time. But Triple H especially, not only is he leaving little Easter egg hunts as we approach Easter within the episode itself, like at the start of the episode, that Cody whispering to Cody's ear to the end, you also get these little backstage segments that, little Easter egg that if you watch every single week, like we saw Drew McIntyre talking to Paul Heyman in the background of a Judgment Day shot, well, not just Judgment Day, with all the tag teams there. There's these little things like that that really give you a payoff if you've been paying close attention, and I feel like that's really contributing to these increasing ratings. People feel like they can't miss the next episode.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head with that one. Obviously, Triple H has done a phenomenal job since taking over this new role of kind of bringing back the Attitude Era, in my opinion. And
He's summoning his youth.
Yeah, just the way their broadcast has been, bringing those post-game interviews, those walk-ins, you get to see, their game day fits, I guess you could say, NBA players. It's great to see Triple H add these elements in. And like you said, they drop these little inklings that foreshadow to upcoming weeks. And it's just great work that he's doing behind the scenes to make this an interesting show and bring wrestling back again.
Yeah, I love the camera work they're doing, too. I'm not going to take this opportunity to crap on Kevin Dunn. I'm just saying there's been a lot of interesting stuff since he's been gone. But yeah, awesome stuff there. Record breaking for Monday Night Raw. But we got to get into some of the actual wrestlers here. And the first thing we got to talk about is Jade Cargill. Now, as you guys are probably well aware, there's a lot of wrestlers who still don't have WrestleMania matches, but some of the highest profile ones, well, maybe the highest profile one is Bianca Belair, who is still without an official WrestleMania match. Well, that might be coming to an end very soon. Now, we've seen teasers, her with Naomi backstage. There's been clear links there. Of course, her with Jade Cargill in that Royal Rumble. Well, Jade Cargill was at a Boston versus Atlanta basketball game, and she said, just keep watching. I need y'all to watch this Friday. Just watch some big, not gonna say that is about to happen. We making money around here. You feel me? Well, Casey, this definitely just makes me think. Well, it makes me think that we're gonna see a Damage CTRL versus Bianca, Naomi, Jade Cargill, 3-on-3, or well, I guess there's 4. There's a lot of people involved in this thing, but with this recent show on SmackDown with Damage CTRL attacking Naomi, we've seen so many links between these superstars. We've seen Jade linked to Bianca, we've seen Naomi linked to Bianca, we've seen Damage CTRL, of course, attacking them as well. Do you think this is what Jade is getting at? Because with some of these high-profile superstars still without a match at Mania, you can't help but feel like this is almost an inevitability at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And like Michael Cole said, she's one of the hottest free agents on the market. So she's obviously going to be involved in WrestleMania at some form. And this makes the most sense being paired with Naomi and Bianca Belair against Damage CTRL. I think this would be a great match. And it could be an opportunity where we could set up a future Bianca versus Jade Cargill match, which would be a banger. Like we've seen them have their stare down at Royal Rumble. They're both big powerhouses and they're, self-proclaimed the strongest women in the division. So I think this would really be a way to set up that match at Backlash.
Yeah, I mean, Backlash would be a great opportunity for that, and I think you can have an easy angle there. You get one of them turning on each other, right? Of course, people like Bianca, Naomi, Jade Cargill, they're all very high-profile people. Of course, Naomi coming back over from TNA, Jade Cargill was the biggest free agent signed, and Bianca is one of the faces of the WWE. There's a reason she's on the cover of 2K24, right? So you have these 3 people, they're all going to want the spotlight, and, when you put these teams together, hey, it doesn't always necessarily go smoothly. So, hey, maybe we will have to tune in this Friday because I think this might be better than we think. But the final thing we want to talk about in this video, KC, is we got to talk about the newest call-up, and some reports have come out. A lot of people have been waiting to hear when this is going to happen. Well, it's not been made official by WWE, but it basically is, as we get some reports from Fightful that Carmelo Hayes is set for his main roster debut post-Mania. Quote, many have asked us about what the status of both men's call-ups are, talking about Carmelo and Trick Williams. One source told Fightful Select that Carmelo has been set for his main roster call-up since prior to the Rumble and is expected to move up to the main roster full-time in the summer. Carmelo Hayes, of course, making his main roster debut last June in 2023 versus Finn Balor. I don't know if a lot of you guys remember he did that, but of course, he was in that U.S. title tournament heading into, I believe it was Elimination Chamber, or maybe before his Royal Rumble, something like that. Anyway, it was a month or two ago. But Carmelo has been so good in NXT, but he's been in one of the great feuds down there right now with Trick Williams and Corey Brennan, of course, of Fightful, reports that Carmelo is ready for his call-up. But additionally, the report notes that officials noticed the reaction Trick Williams got when he got to SmackDown in January. Per Brennan, there have been pitches for Hayes and Williams to continue their rivalry on the main roster after NXT Stand and Deliver, where they will clash in a singles match. However, Brennan states that plans for Trick are unclear after the show. Now, there's a lot of talk, Casey. We know Carmelo. Maybe you can hold your own in the ring with some WWE superstars too. But Carmelo can hold his own. He's had some great matches on the main roster already. And while some people say, yeah, he's small, he's 5'10", he still has that presence, that aura around him. He's been doing some great mic work. I think this is a long time coming, and I think he's going to really impress a lot of people.
Yeah, like you said, it's really well deserved here for Carmelo. I think his in-ring ability is among the best in NXT at this point in time.
For sure.
He has such great charisma. His turn on Trick to turn into a heel really helped him out. He's turned that into, saying he's him and all this stuff. And he's just become such a great heel on the mic, in the ring. And I think it's well deserved for him to make this call up. And if they don't clue up this rivalry at Stand and Deliver, I do believe that Trick will get called up as well. And they will continue this forward on the main roster.
Yeah, even though it's not official and the plans are unclear for Trick Williams, I think it's evident that he should be on the main roster by the end of 2024. And honestly, when you look back at 2024, I think when you look in the future at which NXT superstars who got called up made the biggest impact, you're talking the likes of Tiffany Stratton, you're talking the likes of Braun Breaker, and you're going to look at Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams, and my goodness, a few years down the line, that's going to be one of the most stacked breakout years for call-ups or superstars that were called up maybe ever whatever. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Carmelo, we're going to see him in some pretty high profile feuds right away, whether it's the US title, whoever is owning it at that point. We don't know who's going to come out of Mania with that at this point. Of course, maybe within the next week we will. We'll have a new champion, who knows? Or maybe even the Intercontinental title if Sami Zayn is able to topple Gunther, or maybe even if not, if it's Gable at something like Backlash or another pay-per-view later in the summer. It wouldn't surprise me if Carmelo Hayes could jump right into one of those feuds. And if Trick Williams then gets called up in the fall, I see a nice little transition where you can continue their NXT feud on the main roster, potentially for one of these mid-card titles.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you. And like you said, this is like one of the best classes we've seen come out of NXT in such a long time, probably since the Nexus era, if I'm not mistaken. I think these guys are going to make such huge impact once they make their call up here to the WWE. And like you said with Carmelo Hayes, I think he's going to be tossed right into this US race. If Logan Paul does lose the US title, crazy saying Logan Paul is the
Yeah,
US
it's weird,
champion,
isn't
by the
it?
way. But if he does lose this championship at Mania, or the other way around, if Gunther loses it at WrestleMania, we could see him easily tossed in here as a heel coming into WWE and trying to win one of these championships. I think is well deserved, and I think a feud with an IC champ or a US champ is definitely in the near future for Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah, what a way to propel someone up the roster as well. Not only for him, but for Trick Williams, who I think actually has the higher potential of the two. As he might need a little more work down in NXT, but I don't know. I feel like Trick could be a star right now if you called him up. And hey, what do you guys think? Let us know down below about this Carmelo Hayes and potential Trick Williams call-up. Plus, what are your thoughts on the potential Damage Control versus Naomi, Jade Cargill, Bianca match that we might see at Mania? That'll do it for this episode of Wrestle Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like on the video now and hit subscribe, as we're going to have daily wrestling content into and well after WrestleMania. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, for my co-host, KC. We'll catch you in the next one.